Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We have people from all around the world. Thank you so much for joining Guesty for this fireside chat between me and Brandon. We're going to be talking about scaling STR profits, strategies, and tech insights for 2025. I wanted to start by just introducing myself in case you don't know me. I'm Dave Angotti. I'm our Guesty Chief Evangelist here. I've been fortunate enough to be in this industry now for almost 15 years. Before this industry, I was also in tech as well, had the chance to work with Fortune 100 brands, found my way into the industry. I've been a rent by owner. I've been a property manager. I've been a tech founder in the industry, founding OTAs. Now I find myself on the executive team here at Guesty, and it's a pretty fun, awesome time to be in this industry. Now, Brandon here, who's joining us today, he found Guesty through our CRO, Yair Holzer, and he and Yair started talking, gosh, over a year ago now, about how technology could solve some of the meaningful problems for property managers, especially for franchisees. And there were ways that it hadn't been solved yet. So they started brainstorming around that. And Brandon was instrumental in creating new software features and helping us build out a software that will allow people to scale businesses. But Brandon's no stranger to this industry. He started out with Jet Living, a luxury OTA for vacation homes, then Jet Luxury Resorts, which was a condo-tel property management firm that he founded. He grew both those. He exited them. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's done this over and over again. Grand Welcome was another project of his who you're probably familiar with. And he led the Grand Welcome Franchising Initiative and so many other things. Now he is a private equity co-founder, and he's continuing his mission of helping entrepreneurs really be empowered and accomplish more in their businesses. Before we get rocking and rolling, here's the agenda for today. We're going to start out with a few intro slides that we're doing now. From there, we'll go into our fireside chat and we'll round it out with some questions at the end. Now, if you aren't familiar with Guesty, here's some statistics on it, but what you really need to know, we're passionate about empowering short-term rental hosts, property management companies to just accomplish more in their businesses, basically use technology to scale, to operate seamlessly, to drive more bookings, create these guest experiences, ultimately create value for them, their guests, their employees. That's what we're passionate about. Yes, these numbers speak volumes, but at our core, if we can help you run your business in a more effective way, we're doing our job well. Now, this breaks down into a few different categories. But basically, if you're in property management today, whether you have one listing or thousands of listings, we have a solution that's perfect for your business. Now, I do want to talk about the people behind the purpose. And this quote by Mark Twain is one that should cause us all to take pause. I reflect on my own life as I think about this quote about life being as much about what we leave on the table as what we do. And I've tried to live my life this way. I know Brandon has as well. Now, this has led me to multiple exits, developing neighborhoods for short-term rentals, tackling some crazy life challenges like 100-mile ultra marathons, and ultimately right to my position as an executive here at Guesty. But this quote doesn't just apply to me. See, the beauty of our industry is this industry is rapidly evolving. We're still young. Things are happening at a lightning fast pace. But all that means that technology, it's not just a nice to have. It's a must for operating, for getting ahead, and for competing in this competitive market. Tech is an equalizer that allows somebody with 10 listings to all of a sudden compete with somebody with 500 listings. It'll drive bottom line improvements and guest experiences. But how we utilize technology, that's up to you. That's where this quote comes in. Some of us will ignore it, will leave the opportunity on the table. Others are going to go in all in, and they're going to look at AI solutions. They're going to look to scale. They're going to look to grow their businesses. But tech shouldn't just be deployed for the sake of technology. We should know why we're deploying tech and what operational challenges it's going to solve, the pain points that it's going to alleviate. Now, different markets, they require different approaches. So this picture right here, that was right before my family took a ski trip to Steamboat, Colorado. So luxury vacation rental in a very traditional market for vacations. That market's quite different than Nashville, where I live, and there's bachelorette parties here or a Disney trip with the family. However, one thing that's really interesting, these differences between markets, that actually makes the same tools absolutely crucial. You need dynamic pricing, promotions, calendar syncs, distributions, so on and so forth. It's not less important in any of these markets. It's more important because of the variances between markets. Now, we need to really think about the why on revenue growth. And AirDNA just did a study, and we can drop it here in the notes, but we found that they found that 60% of STR operators, of property managers, attribute revenue growth to tech integration. From our own report that we just completed, we found that the time savings and the enhanced efficiencies and AI dynamic driven pricing can boost your revenue up to 40%. And the real world impact looks something like a 30% bump in your occupancy rates. So we can get more into some of that today. But before we do that, let's just paint the landscape here, which isn't all rosy. Some of it is, some of it's not, though. We have regulatory challenges that are popping up in new markets, and it's driving a need for these operational efficiencies around remaining compliant. Direct bookings, those are rising. That can be good or bad, because if you aren't seeing direct bookings rise in your own business, just know that we're seeing on the whole a 14% increase in that year over year. And so this should be a red flag if you're actually seeing a decrease or a flat line on the direct bookings. Traveler preferences, they aren't getting easier. People want eco-friendly stays. They want these high-end experiences, sustainability. It's not an easy challenge. And then market stabilization, which means there's less new units coming on now than in previous years. And now to maximize profitability, it may not just come through signing additional inventory. We may have to get more revenue out of each individual property. So we're going to take a lot away from this conversation today. We're going to talk about Brandon's journey at Grand Welcome, and hopefully we're going to leave everybody set up well for 2025. We're going to share an ebook here, and we're also going to give lots of actionable tips as well as advice today. And we're going to dive in with Brandon. But first, before we get into the questions around Grand Welcome, around technology, and how to scale our businesses, Brandon, what I'd like to ask you is, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and tell the audience a little bit more about yourself so we can get to know you better than maybe we know you right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, David. So, hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. For those who don't know me, my name's Brandon Ezra, of course. As David mentioned, I founded Grand Welcome. It's a national vacation franchise with almost 100 locations. I recently stepped down to allow a very talented CEO, Patrick Stewart, take the reins and take Grand Welcome to the next level. Every company needs to go to the next level, right? That's why many of you are here. There's always a point at which you need to step down or ask for help. And so perhaps today it's why we're here, is we're hoping to help. I'm hoping to help you with some knowledge that I've gained over more than 2 decades in the industry, all the way back when it was super beginning stuff. And Guesty's hoping to help you with technology, which in my opinion, consequently is the most important partner you're ever going to have, because they're the biggest reason you're going to succeed in this industry, which is now ever changing. Especially in the last couple of years. The topic of helping, my need for wanting to help people, especially small businesses, brought me to co-found a private equity company called Stakeholders. Our goal is to assist small businesses to achieve a much greater exit on their businesses than ever before. And I think it's our duty to take advantage of our expertise to help others, and hopefully we can get some of that done today. So thanks again to Guesty for putting it together. Obviously, looking forward to moving forward here.
That's great, Brandon. I'd like you to walk us back to the early days of Grand Welcome. Back when you were first starting out the company, what were operations like back then, back before you adopted technology like you have today, like Guesty?
Well, yeah, it didn't really start as Grand Welcome. It was a single operation, like many of you here, called Mammoth Property Reservations in Mammoth Lakes, California. And back then we were getting, it's all about revenue, right? We were getting our revenue through printed ads, believe it or not, printed in paper. People would read it and they'd call us. The first classified ad sites were coming out, Great Rentals, which is no longer around, vacationrentals.com as well. Verbo actually would started to pop up and more. We did manual bookings. There was no such thing as waking up and seeing bookings in your system. It was how many people can answer the phone, right? So manual bookings,
Wild.
seasonal rates. You didn't set rates every day or every hour or every week. You set rates before the season, and then you got into the season, and that's kind of what you did, right? Um, DOS, there was I mean, when I started buying companies, kind of in the early-ish days, a couple of them had DOS systems. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's like a black screen with like green lettering, and you kind of got to know how it works. Um, Operations used to show up and collect cleaning and maintenance reports in the morning. And the solution that I had to come up with is just to custom develop stuff, apps and little bits of tech. Um, PMS has then started to improve, right? Things started to happen. I moved from RMS to Barefoot, ultimately to Track, and luckily for us, there's a company called Guesty, and we're with Guesty now. So very happy that things have moved along.
So back in the world of DOS and print ads, this crazy, seemingly crazy thing compared to today, right? It's almost like more simple and more complex simultaneously to think about a world like that. But where is this turning point where all of a sudden you have to start using the best technology? What made you realize that that was going to be essential for scaling as you moved forward?
Oh man, the industry is so much more complicated now. There's so many moving parts. I mean, I'd say it's to a factor of 100. Not even to a factor of 10. It's just incredibly complicated. And some of the areas you all operate in on this call are in increasingly complicated areas, regulatory and operationally speaking. It used to be that a few classified ads and local was how you did it, and or classified ads in general, and local regulation was nothing. Um, we have a low margin industry, right? We don't have a huge margin. You can't manufacture a huge margin. You're not going to do much to increase it, right? Other than some efficiencies, but there's no massive jumps. So technology has to fill the gap, right? And also technology has to support quality because you can't try and increase your margin and sacrifice quality. So short-term gains and long-term destruction. And so tech is an absolute must these days. There's simply no other way.
So I kind of teased through how you and Guesty ended up in this partnership and rolling out to Grand Welcome. But can you walk us through exactly how Guesty entered the picture?
Yeah, sure. Initially, I had one location. That's when I had lots of hair and things were fun. And then I decided to grow. Um, Jokes aside, I grew to 7 locations. I acquired a bunch of companies and grew organically. Um, and to almost 100 locations now with many thousands of properties, right, with Grand Welcome. Um, things are extremely complex, and we just needed a true enterprise level software, right? There's just a myriad of challenges that, especially in the amount of locations we're in, it's pretty huge. So we interviewed every PMS company worldwide, all of them, and put a very, very detailed thousands of hours, I would say, were spent on this process because the most important decision you're ever going to make as a PM is which software you're going to work with. It's such a huge undertaking for those of you who've been through it before. So extremely detailed. We looked for the gaps, looked for our future needs. We did demos, and there was an enormous amount of gaps we had. I mean, you can only imagine, right? It was incredible. And we hadn't worked with a company before that really had come through on filling the gaps. And Guesty had ultimately committed to fill all our gaps, which were hundreds of gaps, which gaps for those of you out there, it just means something we needed the software currently didn't do. And Guesty said, no problem, we'll do it. And they put on 60, 70 programmers and we signed with them. And today, all the gaps are done. Like we're almost fully transitioned 7, 8 months later from our previous PMS to Guesty, which is astounding, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that, especially around the amount of features that we needed to produce for Grand Welcome, along with the amount of developers that we put on this project. I think you can start to lose sight of these slides that have something like, "Hey, we've raised almost $500 million in funding," and to the average person, that really doesn't mean that much. But what it means to a customer of Guesty's is we have the developers to come after these items, to push these things forward, to get these features shipping on a regular basis. And any of our customers can attest to this. We are regularly shipping new features that benefit them and their businesses. And that's the benefit of that one little stat. It's on one little slide. It's monumental to the businesses there that are choosing to use us as a PMS. I do want to double back and just think through this. A lot of the people on the call today, they're in smaller teams. They aren't somebody operating thousands of listings and units like you guys do. They may have 5 or 10 listings or 20 listings and really just struggling to make their business keep moving forward. What's something that those folks can implement from a technology perspective that will make them more effective in their businesses and just less under the thumb of the operational pressures that are just squeezing them every day?
Yeah, I mentioned it before, like we don't run on big margins. Like we can't just go willy-nilly hire people because your annual profit can fall to pieces. Notwithstanding industry conditions, things that can happen if you're in a snow market, you have a bad snow season. So like you got to keep the numbers up. And so starting with, look, you don't have properties, you don't have a business, period, right? This is the business we're in, little pieces of paper, and then we get to manage properties. And your owner interaction has to be great. Like that's where it all starts. So online accounts, automated newsletters, custom owner statements, giving them what they actually want to see. Each area, from what I've seen, owners want to see a different thing. I mean, there's some areas in the country owners get paid weekly. So if you think your job's tough in finance, try operate there. Technology can solve those problems. Guest services, no question about it. Communication to guests. You get bad reviews, you're going to have a major problem, not only signing owners, but booking your properties. Like reviews back in the old days almost didn't exist. And today it almost seems like it's a review-centric industry. And so the communication with those guests and how you market them and the follow-through is huge. And it has to be tech-driven because there's too much going on to do that manually. Revenue management, obviously, it's leaps and bounds from where it was just a couple of years ago. Tech's going to get you there. The one part of this that some folks don't like to talk about or are not looking at is your finance department, your accounting, your bookkeeping, cash reconciliation. Technology can help you solve those problems. Every time we audit our Airbnb account, we found issues and consequently money owed to us. It's never money owed to them. And I've audited Airbnb 100 times. So technology can help you make those cash reconciliations and find the money that belongs to you, not them. Like no PMS will have it all. They must have amazing integrations. It's critical. And quite frankly, Guesty has all of them. So when we were doing our analysis of all the companies out there, there was essentially nothing missing on integrations with Guesty. I don't think we had a gap there at all, which for us was fantastic.
Yeah, so on the Guesty side, like some of the interesting facts, and we'll have the links over here in the notes, but we see almost a 25% growth in listings when you switch to us. And that's not saying we're doing all the work, but we're definitely empowering some of the property managers, the users that are using our tools to either have more time to go sign those listings, have better quality of listings, better quality of revenue. And another just like fascinating stat around this is a 40% on average increase in revenue when you turn on dynamic pricing. That is just phenomenal. If you don't have dynamic pricing on, you don't have to wait. We have Guesty Price Optimizer. There's other good solutions out there as well. Get that turned on. So I want to pivot and talk about this idea of AI for just a minute. So, 60% of people that are out there managing properties today are citing tech integration and scaling as a necessity per AirDNA's recent report. And when I think about AI, I can't help but almost think about if our ancestors could see us today, we're living in this unprecedented age where we would almost be viewed as gods. We're able to talk with each other from around the world, so almost like omnipresent. We have all information sitting here, right here in our pocket. And so it's like relative to even like 100 years ago, the amount of information is just astounding. The technology is astounding. And that doesn't automatically solve a problem. AI, we were talking the other day, it's kind of like a microphone. And if you're a great singer, that's a good thing. But if you're a bad singer, it's a horrible thing. AI is this amplifying tool that will make you a lot bigger at whatever you are, either greatness or poor operations. Either one, it's going to magnify you. So maybe we can talk through how you see AI reshaping the entire landscape of STRs over the next 12 months or so, because it's hard to even imagine past 12 months of AI.
Yeah, I mean, I can give you my perspective on AI sort of on a global level, which essentially is just a version of what we're doing. It's all kind of the same. And so, first of all, tons of information doesn't mean anything unless you can use it quickly and efficiently, right? That's the key. And so, AI today, working autonomously is like a 3-year-old child, if that. Like it can't do much. Like the best thing it can do today, which is great if you use it, is it can amplify your team, right? Your well-trained, well-supported team can augment them. It's like a megaphone. And so your team wants to write reviews. Well, AI can just whip out the most amazing responses rather to reviews. You want to respond to guests. You want to write some social media. AI is fantastic with all that stuff. And of course, it's going to get into finance eventually, and obviously rate management. It's already started. Guest services, cash recs, revenue management, those will be the first movers, the first things that actually impact you. And those who adopt it will see increase in profits, not immediately, but over time. And those who don't are going to be competing with those who do. And so you might not go out of business, you might still have a business running, but the reason we're running a business is to make profit, right? Does not say Red Cross in front of the front door. Like you want to make profit. You don't use AI, dollars will be going out the back door, and that obviously is not going to help you. So, and I'd say one other thing. Don't take it upon yourself to become an AI expert. Don't think you have to do it. You need to work with a tech partner or partners, or however you use different components to your business, and they need to have put the time in to implement the AI. And it needs to be very simple and easy for you to use. If that's not the case, then there's a problem. So I'd also like to mention that.
Yeah, I think that's especially relevant. We aren't asking any property managers to go out there and build the next chat GPT. Nobody has to go build the next Guesty price optimizer. But you do want to be careful who you partner with. Do they have the funding? Do they have the right team? Do they have people that are laser focused on ensuring the correct applications of AI are built into the software and really built into the processes, which brings me to another line of thought. I've had a chance to talk with you a few times now, as well as other people that are in the franchising space. And it feels to me like franchising, the real value that a company like Grand Welcome brings to the table is the processes, the recipes for success. And so, can you talk me through how Grand Welcome is using processes on the tech front and the partner front within the company there?
Yeah, so let me back it up a little bit. Let me go back to when I first started in this industry, one location in Mammoth Lakes. I remember back then, like many of you today, who you had to sign the owners, you had to onboard them, you had some help, I'm sure, you had to manage the rates, you had to do everything, right? Like 15 hats in one day. And I always said to myself, what would this look like if, like, I'm very good at growth, right? Back end stuff and finance and accounting and all that, it's not my strong point. There's people that are good at that. And I always said to myself, what would this look like if back in the early days I could have just been, I didn't have to deal with the back end stuff. How fast would my business have grown? And the answer is a lot. And so fast forward to today, and that's the reason I started the franchise. I was buying companies. I bought about 20 of them. And I said, this isn't the way to do it. Let me work and help support business owners, right? Let me take care of the back end stuff for them. And we do all the training. And I'll get to the tech in a second. We do all the training, we do all the support, we do all your revenue management, we produce all the revenue for our franchises, and then we offer all the core technology needs, core tech being PMS predominantly. And that's where Guesty comes in, right? So everything we train our franchisees on, everything they're using to grow their businesses, their business usually, is based on the PMS, period. Like it's everything centralized around that. And we also do cash directs for our franchises, guest services for many of them. And all of it's technology driven. And all of it's based upon, the vast majority is based upon Guesty. Some of the other advantages, we also, being a manager, you generally give away a lot of your profits in the off season. There's folks you're not going to fire, like, winter comes to an end, you're not firing half your staff. As a franchise, I always said to myself, what would it look like if Grand Welcome took on the burden off season, all the back end expensive stuff? And so it helps improve revenue. And consequently, with the help of tech partners like Guesty and some very talented people that we have at Grand Welcome, we've taken folks off the street that know nothing about vacation rentals. And within 12 to 24 months, they have multi-million-dollar successful businesses.
What an amazing story to think about. Going from knowing nothing about this industry, and like you were saying, it's by a huge order of magnitude more complicated than it's ever been before. And now here we are, and you have these multimillionaires that have been created within your ecosystem, which is a testament to what you guys have built there. That is absolutely phenomenal and something to be proud of. One of the things you said there that made me think before we get on to the next question around revenue is around the staff and not having to lay off the staff. I think that's one of the advantages that being across so many destinations and getting that back office support that you do get, because you levelize that demand, whereas peak season and the ski destination is completely different than at the beach. And then when you're working with a franchise or a franchisor that has that exposure to all these different markets, it allows them to really just provide solutions that would be difficult in one individual market. So that's super cool. This next question is around business success metrics, specifically tying into revenue. Why do you think revenue management is a critical piece of the puzzle, and how does transparency play into that?
It's a good question. That's a good one. Well, quality drives reviews, right? Quality drives reviews, bottom line, right? Operations drives quality, okay? And good reviews drive higher rates. This is the way it works, right? So everything really has to work pretty well. If you increase your revenue above your burn rate, your basic expenses, every PM has a basic number every year you've got to hit, and anything above that is your profit, right? So increasing your revenue by, say, just 10%, if you look at your P&L today, you can say, oh, wow, that gives me another 1 to 1.5% profit. Because generally in this industry, we're 10 to 15% net profit end of the day, right? Generally speaking, some are higher, some hopefully are not lower. And that's not the case. Increasing your revenue by 10% will probably give you more like 5 to 8% increase in profit, because your basic expenses are met. In order to do another reservation, you don't need additional core staff, right? All you need to do is someone needs to clean it, and that's a la carte, right? For many of you using vendors, Grand Welcome was almost completely vendored out. The company-owned locations that we had, hundreds of properties, we had hardly any staff working on that. So revenue management is it's the difference between you making say $100,000 a year or 150, and you don't have to hire anyone else to do it, because every dollar you bring in over and above your basic burn rate, a large portion of that dollar drops straight to your bottom line, right? So it's an absolute critical thing. Now, that sounds nice and easy, but it's not, right? You got to have technology that really makes it very easy for you to metabolize the information, look at the information, and very easy to make the changes. That's key. And it's kind of it's paramount to like a plane taking off. Seats that are empty are gone forever, right? You can never get revenue back for it. So with the amount of information out there, you got to have a tech company, right? And I can attest Guesty's revenue management tool is outstanding. There's other great ones too, but they're excellent. Why pay for another one if you have a great one built in? You're already paying for it. And so every single dollar counts, and it's just critical to the revenue of companies. You increase your revenue by 10%, you might go up 50% in profit. That's it, bottom line. And it's such a huge thing, and it's very often overlooked, and folks, don't give it the kind of attention that it really deserves.
I think what you're saying there is great. And just to recap it, when we have these fixed expenses as businesses, we're going to pay the same price for our office, regardless of what we charge per night at that condo or that house. We're going to pay the same price for that full-time general manager. There's all these fixed expenses. And if we're still eking out a profit today with those fixed expenses, and now we can have this incremental improvement to gross revenue, it's going to be an outsized improvement on the bottom line because the fixed expenses stay the same. Hopefully, even some of the things like housekeeping, we're operating at a small profit or at least break even. So even some of the incremental non-fixed expenses pay for themselves or generate additional profit. So it's like this incremental improvement for hopefully exponential gains. And am I saying that correct?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I'd go as far as to say this. You could spend 30 minutes a day on revenue management with the right tool. That could increase your revenue annually by 10, 15% quite easily. And I'd say at bare minimum, you're making 25% more profit in your company, maybe as high as 50. Now, think about that. 30 minutes a day with a good piece of software. 30 minutes, you got 6, 7 staff working for your business. How many hours a day is that of work being done? 30 minutes a day with the right piece of software. End of the year, 25 to 50% more cash in your pocket.
Amazing.
It's just so huge. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, it really is.
We have quite a few questions that have come in ahead of time, as well as some that I believe are coming in live on the live stream here as well. So I wanted to take a few of these from the audience. And the first one is from Juan. And Juan had a question around boosting where we appear on Airbnb, or how do we rise to the top on Airbnb? What are your thoughts on that?
Airbnb has a formula. You can go and just look at their rules. They'll tell you what the formula is. You can just do a bit of research on that online. But bottom line is reviews and your ability for your response time. Consequently, this is all driven by technology if it's done right. You can answer reviews almost instantly, and your response time can be almost instant, and they love that. What they hate is you canceling reservations, as we know, and you making life more difficult for them. Technology can solve that too. You don't want double bookings. You don't want to change things on guests. You want to keep all that stuff in lockstep. So tech driven, no question about it. Go online, do a quick search, and you'll spend 20 minutes reading, and you'll have a much greater perspective on Airbnb.
Yeah, the cool thing on this one too, Juan, just to weigh in on that, there's published rankings on how good the software is. So you want to partner with somebody that has a top tier ranking with Airbnb or Vrbo, whoever it is that you're looking to drive bookings from. And then I can't echo what Brandon said enough. Those reviews, those are going to basically be thought of by that company as their reputation. And so the better you're doing on reviews, the better the reputation is of Airbnb, is how they look at that. And the final thing I might add to that one is there's this idea of VPV, or value per visit. And so every time they put a visitor across your listing, they're looking at how much do they predict that visitor is going to create versus how much does that visitor create on your listings versus somebody else's. And all of that ties together. It's not one or the other, it's all of it together in one package deal. There's not some like hack where I can tell you, oh, there's that hidden button on this one screen, and if you'll click that, you'll be in spot one for your market. It, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on where you're ranked today, does get driven by all of these factors. The next one is from Jay, and Jay had a question on any tips you might have on lowering the housekeeping costs and also driving growth through acquisitions. Jay has two questions there, and those were his.
Yeah, simple. Vendor out your housekeeping, a la carte. Fix it, vendor it out, set expectations, make sure your vendor's making a buck. That's important. Vendor it out if you can, if it's possible. The only time I ever saw vendoring out being real tough is if you're in a very remote part of the world and there's just not enough people living there physically. But if that's not the case, you need to vendor it out, and you'll take care of that problem pretty quickly. And then getting more owners. Look, I mean, find out which owners live in your area, names, telephone numbers, emails. Send them emails, make phone calls, send them little pieces of mail, see what works better in your area. If you send pieces of mail to owners in Lake Tahoe, good luck, because they're all tech savvy. You send them emails, response rates through the roof. You send pieces of mail to owners in Sea Ranch, California, it's an older population, they love it, right? They pick it up, they touch it, and they call you. So figure out what works in your area. There's lots of companies out there now that can help you with that, right? It's not a mystery, but you got to just do the work. Get the list, do the work, follow through. Probably most importantly, take note of what's actually working. Don't just throw money in the air and hope for the best.
Next up, from Richard, what makes a guest give a good property review these days? How do you get the good ratings out of the guest?
Well, you can't bribe them anymore, so you're going to have to stick to.
We got to do it the hard way.
You gotta do it the hard way. So you gotta look. If a guest walks into a clean property and they were able to get in easily, and your pictures aren't these super photoshopped, amazing pictures like, everyone knows we can make our properties look a heck of a lot better than they are. You got to be real. Like the person's going to walk in and see the thing. So keep the pictures real, keep the description accurate. As long as they can walk in when they're expecting to, and the basic faculties of the property are in order, you're getting a good review. And then don't be afraid to ask for it, because the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Someone's upset with you, trust me, you're getting a bad review. Someone has a great time, all they're doing is telling their friends, wow, that was really a great experience. They're not telling the world. So you need to, put a microphone in front of their face and tell them to start talking. That's important.
One of the things we used to do back when I was in property management, people will always ask you for that early check-in. And every time we would grant the early check-in, even if we waived the fee on it, or especially when we waived the fee on it, we would say, hey, we normally do charge $75 for this, but we were able to work it out for you for free based on our cleaning schedule today. I hope that you guys really enjoy the extra time in the unit. And if you have any problems with your stay, do let us know. But at checkout, we're going to ask you for a five-star review because we really feel like we've given that service to you. Let us know if for some reason you don't feel that way. And so it triggers reciprocity, which is a common psychological element in all of us. Somebody's done something for us. It's natural to want to do something for them, but it's in a way that follows the terms of service, et cetera. We aren't paying for that review per se. We're giving an actual experience and creating value for them.
Some of our franchisees put little gift baskety type things. They give it to the cleaners and it has a note in it saying, please leave a review, and they make it really enticing. I can tell you right now, they get more reviews. Like there's no question. The more effort you put in, the more you're going to get out, pretty much.
So this next one's from an STR host. What's one thing hosts should be thinking about implementing in 2025?
I mean, digital locks. You want to have 24-hour guest services. There's lots of companies that can help with that. There's actually in most big areas I know of, there's companies, little companies, even local companies that'll help you with answering the phone 3 a.m. You can work with inexpensive pricing products out there that are built or scaled to your size. And then just follow all the traditional rules. The pictures need to be accurate, good description, response time needs to be good. That's it. You do that, you'll be in good shape.
So we'll just take a couple more. I do want to be respectful to everybody's time and thank you for joining us today. Stefano has a question. What is the best day-to-day practice on increasing revenue management and increasing basically results with revenue management that you would recommend?
Great question. It all starts with the people working for you, always, right? You need great people. You can only have great people if you train them properly. Once they're trained properly, they should be on a system or a tech or a platform that allows them to take lots of information and very quickly make changes to the property's rates. Once again, Guesty's product's great. There's some other great ones. They're all very good. And if you do that alone, you'll get the result. That's it. I mean, back in the days I started, guys, I wish I had this. What we had to go through to produce an extra dollar was astounding. These days, all you have to do is just pick a partner, learn their system, get trained in it properly, and just do it every day. And 100% you're getting the results.
This next one I'm going to take, it's a pretty easy one. It's from a Guesty client. They're asking, hey, how do we get a demo of that Guesty pricing platform? And yes, you can just reach out to your CRM or anybody else here at Guesty, and we'll get that set up for you. That's something we'd love to do for you. And then I think we're going to round it out with this last one, which is what about direct bookings? How can we generate more direct bookings?
Yeah, I've got some friends of mine that own some big hotel companies, and it's been the age-old question. Once the OTAs get their hooks in you, how do you get them out? The answer is you don't, ever. The best you can do is have incentives for them to get emails, so you can resolicit them, telephone numbers, resolicit them, find ways to incentivize them to want to communicate with you directly. And most of the OTAs have cut this out, as we know. And that's really the best you can do. Other than that, I wouldn't spend too much time on it. It'll definitely be a process of a diminishing return. The amount of effort you'll put in to produce that additional revenue, unless you have their information, is in my opinion, not really worth it. Unless perhaps you have a very high-end company, properties that rent for a couple thousand a night, then putting in that direct marketing effort, it could pay off. If you don't, then it starts to be a little tricky to produce the result.
And I'll just also take a stab at this one. Done quite a bit on the booking side of things. First off, I would recommend, in line with what Brandon was just saying, a distribution strategy that's comprehensive. And that means not having all of your eggs in one basket, because similar to Juan's question, I'm guessing he's wishing he was getting more bookings from Airbnb to ask that question. Well, you can start to remove that risk if you're on Booking.com and Vrbo and Airbnb and other tertiary channels as well. And so there's that piece of it. But then the second half of it is, how do you impress people so much when they come to you through one of the OTAs that they want to come back to you directly the next time? And there's whole books on this. Unreasonable Hospitality by Will is a good one if you're looking for one. But basically, how do you wow that guest and deliver that service in a way that makes the guest just want to come back to your brand? And then it does come to CRM and all the other tech pieces as well. So
three very simple things. It's when they arrive, the door opens. When they walk inside, it's clean and looks the way they're expecting. And when they pick up the phone with an issue, someone answers it. That's it. You do those three things and you'll have the most loyal guests in the world. They'll love you. Anything above that, great. It's icing on the cake, but it's not necessary.
Well, Brandon, we're about to round this out. Is there anything you'd like to leave people with as a last piece of advice as they move into tackling 2025 and hopefully having a great year in their business?
Yeah, I'd say focus on your staff as much as possible. These are the people who are your company. Make sure that the tech that you're using supports the needs of your company and supports what you're trying to achieve. And don't be complacent on that. Do that as quick as possible, and the results will come just as quick. I appreciate everyone's time. Great being able to speak to everyone today.
So I'm going to throw up this screen here, which has our email address in case anybody needs to get a hold of us. Again, we're going to email out a recording of this webinar that should hit your inboxes sometime next week. I do appreciate each and every one of you. Saw a lot of friends' names on the calls, a lot of customer names, industry colleagues. We appreciate each of you coming and joining Brandon and I. Brandon, a special thanks to you for both being a great customer of Guesty's, but also for joining us here today. We appreciate your time, and we appreciate everyone joining.